Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Thanks so much for clicking. I am Abbie, the owner of Luxe, and today I am bringing you a Tiger King inspired video. So if you haven't seen Tiger King already, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Get yourself on Netflix and get watching. I think there's only a few episodes, there's only 8 or 9, so it's not going to take up too much of your time, and time is something that we all have at the minute, so would definitely recommend you going and watching Tiger King for a little bit of entertainment. It is crazy. It's just another level of crazy. Like, do these things really happen? But apparently so. So if you've watched it already, you will know Carol Baskin, who is the picture that I've input on the right hand side of this video. This is the picture that I am recreating. So carry on watching and you will see me transform myself into a version of Carol Baskin. I've loved doing these recreations. I've done a couple now. I've got another one to post that you will see very shortly. So I've loved doing these and I really want to do more of these kind of character creative makeup transformations. They're so fun to do. If you've watched my videos already, you'll know that I'm not the best at doing my own face of makeup. I can't see it in the same way as doing somebody else's. I see it completely differently. So as soon as I have a model available to me, I'm going to be doing so many more kind of character, celebrity transformations on other faces because I just find it easier that way. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really, really fun. But obviously at the minute I'm really limited to faces that I'm able to use, so I'm having to do this on myself. I've honestly got so much in mind though that I want to do. A lot of them for some reason end up being men, so I'm either going to have to rope my husband into being a model for that for me, or I'm going to have to transform myself into a man, which will be a little bit harder, but I'm up for the challenge. Well, saying that, the state of me at the moment, it's probably not that difficult to transform myself into a man. So let's get into talking you through this transformation. So every time you see me looking at my phone, I am looking at the picture that you can see here. So basically the way I'm doing this is looking at each individual part of Carole Baskin's face and comparing that to my face and seeing which areas I need to emphasize or minimize or change the shape of, and taking it one step at a time. If I looked at her whole complete face at once, I would find it quite difficult to break that down. So it does really need to be section by section and working on that area and changing that to make it as similar as the picture as possible at a time before moving on. So for instance, I needed to start with an even base and I needed to look at the colouring of her skin, which is slightly paler and yellow based. So I've put on a base all over my skin to start with to pale that up a little bit, and that gives me a bit of room to then add the colour in and all the contours and shading in that I'm going to need to put. I then moved on to eyes, and obviously I had to add in quite a few lines under the eyes and of darkness. You can see that the inner corner of Carol's eye is quite dark, so I've added that in. The products that I'm using for these contours is a mix of the Anastasia Beverly Hills contour palette, also the P. Louise bases in the lighter and darker shades, and brown gel liners and taupe and brown eyebrow pomades as well. So quite a different mix of products that I'm using there. So I've added in that darkness under the eye, the lines under the eye, the darkness on the inner of the lids. I had to do some work on my eyebrows to kind of lighten them up and thicken them and make them less defined. Mine are naturally quite a lot more defined. I also had to change the shape of them too. So I've used a bit of concealer in the brows to block out the ends, because the ends of Carol's brows, if you can see there, they're quite faint and faded. So I've done my best to disguise them in that way. I've then used eyeshadows and eyeliners to replicate that darker part on the outer corner of her eye that she always does with her makeup. Carol's eyes are actually quite far set apart, and she emphasizes this by putting a darker eyeliner shade just on the outside of her eyes. So if you can see on the outer kind of corners, on the outer V of her eyes, top and bottom, she uses a dark eyeliner, and that emphasizes them being further apart. So I've made sure that I've put that in as well, and then a few of the crow's feet on the edges. I've also added in the lines on the forehead, and then one of the main prominent things with Carole is that she's got quite prominent cheeks on the front part of her face. So I've added in the illusion of that as well with the shading on the cheeks. She's got a little bit of colour on her cheeks too, so I've added the blusher in, and then you can see me just working on the other eyebrow up here. This does look crazy at the moment, but when it all comes together you can kind of see where it's going. I've also looked at the nose completely separately, and I had to add certain shadows into certain places to give the illusion of having a similar shaped nose. So to do that, I brought the smile lines quite high up on the sides of the nose and then brought that out wider, and that's given me the illusion of having a wider nose at the bottom. So everything I do, I'm always referring back to the picture and checking to see whether that has made me look more like Carole or not. Even certain things like Carole's got a larger chin space than myself, so it was adding in certain shading and angles to try and give the illusion of that being bigger. Also with her lips, she's got quite a small lower lip, but then a larger upper lip, which is normally not so much the case. It would be the other way around. So I had to try and use lip liner and lipstick to try and minimize my bottom lip slightly, and then round out the Cupid's bow a little bit on the top lip to make it more similar to Carole's. With the shades of the colours that I'm using as well, she's quite cool toned. So on her eyes, cheeks and lips, she's got cool toned colours. The lips are quite not shimmery, but it's got a bit of like a frosty coloured lipstick. So we've gone for a frosty lilac-y colour on the lips too. So I'm just using really small detailer brushes to add in all of this, and then using my fingers to blend it out, and then also a few brushes with eyeshadow to add in the shading as well. So a lot of this was aging makeup, but obviously trying to emphasize certain areas and minimize certain areas to make my face shape and sizes of certain areas more similar to Carole's as well. I'm actually quite happy with how the eyes turned out for my first attempt. Eyebrows were really hard on this one, trying to disguise my own eyebrows, and obviously I didn't get rid of my eyebrows by gluing them down or anything like that, but I probably could have done that on the ends to minimize them a little bit more. So you can just see me add in the last final finishing touches here, and then off to get my wig and transformation. Here I am as Carole Baskin, complete with her hair and flower crown, of course. And here I am trying to do the same face as Carole in the picture to try and make it look as similar as possible. So this was my first ever transformation on myself. I'd love to know what you think. Please leave a comment below and let me know, and I will see you in the next video.